I miss you." At her words, my face turned as red as a lobster. "So, does that mean you want to come over to my place, Natalie?" When I asked for confirmation, she also blushed. She covered her face with both hands. Apparently, she tends to make natural and careless remarks. Heart pounding, I raised both my hands. "My name is Jason, I'm 30 years old. I'm a truck driver. Today, like any other day, I picked up cargo at the airport to transport it to various destinations. As a kid, I once got to ride in my father's long-haul truck for a field trip. He looked cool driving, hauling cargo, and communicating with clients, and I decided I wanted to be like him when I grew up. It's noon now. At a convenience store big enough for my truck, I bought lunch and was taking a break when my phone rang. It was Derek. He's been my close friend since middle school, and believe it or not, he's now a pilot. Though we both drive for a living, our jobs couldn't be more different, yet we've stayed good friends. "Hey, what's up?" I answered the phone casually, hearing a chuckle from the other end. "That's your opener. No, long time no see. Or how are you?" It's hardly long time no see, when we just saw each other briefly at the airport last week. When I'm loading cargo at the airport, Derek sometimes pops up. If my work schedule and Derek's free time align, he comes over to see me. I think he's really diligent. By the way, I've never gone out of my way to look for him. Well, whatever. I've got a reason to. You free next Sunday? Hang out with me? I grimaced, unseen on the other end. Don't assume I'm free. But I am. What are we doing? I'm not up for a date with you. I joked, and Derek laughed. I wouldn't want that either. Actually, I've got a dinner planned with a girl, but it turns out she's bringing a friend. I don't want to be the only guy. Can you come? The friend is a flight attendant. At the end, I could almost see his mischievous grin through the phone. Even if I dine with a flight attendant, what good does it do me? I'd just be making you look good. Have you got your eye on one of them? As I spoke, he fumbled for words. Such a transparent guy. Geez, fine. I'll be your wingman then. Both of them are probably after you. It's cruel, really. You should introduce them to some better guys. As I mixed self-deprecation with my response, his tone became serious. You're a good man, you know. His sudden compliment made me a bit embarrassed. Come on, there's no comparison between a glamorous pilot like you and a truck driver like me. See ya. I hung up the phone, feeling awkward. I suppressed a grin. That guy, he really is a good guy. Just one kind word from him lifted my spirits, and I sang to myself while driving. A week later, dressed in the best outfit from my drawer, I met up with Derek. Tall and handsome, he looks good in anything he wears. That day, he was dressed in a fine white knit sweater paired with jeans. Hope you spill pasta sauce all over that. I teased, and he chuckled. Maybe I'll skip ordering anything with tomato sauce. The venue today was an Italian restaurant. Fancy pasta doesn't suit me, but this place has a salad bar with an authentic curry included. While picking a restaurant that would appeal to the ladies, Derek also considered my tastes. From my perspective, he is the perfect guy. It's hard to believe he's still single at this age. After a while, two women arrived at the restaurant, both smiling. Sitting across from Derek was Amber. She's a cute woman with short black hair that suits her well. Her knee-length pink dress also looks great on her. Sitting across from me was Natalie. This beauty had her black hair pulled back into a bun, looking as if she came straight from work. She was dressed in a striped shirt and pants. Her good figure was obvious at a glance. Both of them, 2 years younger than us, are 28-year-old flight attendants. After introductions were made, Derek started chatting amiably with Amber, who was sitting in front of him. I wondered if she was the one he was interested in as I observed them. It's so obvious, Natalie and I might as well not even be here. Honestly, I'm not the type who's good with words, nor am I a guy who can chat up women easily. Usually, I mutter to myself while driving my truck and laugh heartily with the old guys at client sites. While wondering what to talk about with her, I safely started a conversation about the weather and the temperature, and she kindly smiled at such dull chatter. After a while, the waiter came to take our orders, and salad plates were distributed to everyone. "Derek, let's go," Amber said in a sweet voice, inviting him. Derek, with a slight smile, asked Natalie and me, "Can we go ahead and get our food first?" In such a setting, I couldn't say no, so I gestured for them to go ahead. I thought we all could have gone together to get our food, but if they say they'll go first, we just have to wait. Left alone at the table, feeling a bit bewildered, Natalie quietly started talking to me. "I'm sorry. That girl, Amber, likes Derek." I was a bit surprised. I thought both of them liked him. Actually, Amber initially invited him to dinner. He gently declined, citing that being alone together might lead to misunderstandings. What a situation to be in. Then, finding Natalie nearby, Amber quickly grabbed her, saying, "If she is with us, it won't be just the two of us, right?" And that's how Natalie got roped into this. She asked for my help. I couldn't say no. I hesitated a little, then asked quietly, "So, Natalie, do you also like Derek?" I trailed off, but she shook her head with a smile. "I respect him as a pilot, but I have no romantic feelings for him. I know how Amber feels, and besides, I have no desire to get married." Such beauty, and no desire to marry, what a waste. Oh, maybe not. Was that a subtle hint for me? This meeting was orchestrated for Derek and Amber, and we were just extras. And these extras weren't going to end up together, just to be clear. I chuckled to myself, but knowing the situation made it easier not to feel pressured. I just needed to have a pleasant conversation with this beautiful woman for about 2 hours. Just as they returned, we headed to the salad bar. I filled my plate to the brim with salad and then headed to the curry station to heap on some rice. I topped it off with what turned out to be green curry. Seeing my plate, Natalie's eyes widened. "Are you really going to eat that much curry, even though the pasta is coming?" I grinned and replied playfully, "Because my job is physically demanding." She chuckled softly, "But the curry does look delicious. You don't often find all-you-can-eat green curry, do you?" "I wish I could have some too," she said, looking sadly at my plate. Apparently, if she starts eating curry, she won't be able to finish your pasta. "If you'd like, maybe I could take some of your pasta." When I suggested this, she blushed deeply. "What? No, that's okay. I mean, I couldn't have you eating my leftovers." I was puzzled. "No, if you just share some pasta with me first, it won't be leftovers." At my words, she turned even redder. "Oh, right, yes, that makes sense. Oh, how embarrassing." Trying to suppress my growing affection for the deeply blushing Natalie, I smiled. Then it settled. I really wanted to try the cream sauce pasta you ordered. Seeing her still embarrassed, I quickly returned to our table. Back at the table, Amber was startled by the amount on my plate. Meanwhile, Derek, familiar with my hearty appetite, looked unfazed. But he warned, "You're reaching the age when metabolism starts to slow down. Don't overeat, or you'll end up a fat old man." Still, they were engaged in conversation, so I started eating my salad and curry. "Delicious," I inadvertently exclaimed, interrupting their conversation. "Is it really that good?" When asked, I nodded vigorously. Just then, Natalie returned. Her plate had just a modest amount of rice and curry. She took a bite and her eyes widened. "This is awesome." Hearing this, Derek stood up. I'll get some myself. Followed by Amber, who also got up. I want some too, but, oh, my diet, she said. Despite her hesitation, she ended up following him. Once again left alone at the table, we shared a wry smile. Even though the four of us were supposed to be together, it often ended up with just the two of us chatting. The more we talked, the more it became clear how much Natalie loved her job. I don't want to quit my job. That's why I don't want to get married. At her words, I tilted my head. Why would you have to quit your job if you got married? Isn't it normal for both partners to work these days? She smiled wryly at my question. Being a flight attendant is pretty demanding. I often have to work shifts like 2 nights and 3 days, or 3 nights and 4 days, making it hard to balance work and home life. I see, so she often has to be away from home. Then a husband who supports you would be great. There must be plenty of men who'd want to support someone like you. I laughed heartily, but she just gave a wry smile. Men, even if they say that, they still have their pride. Her expression was a bit sad. Actually, my mom was a flight attendant too. Hearing this, I was surprised. A mother-daughter pair of flight attendants. That's amazing. She blushed a bit. She didn't plan to marry either, but my dad kept confessing and proposing, insisting he would support her, and she married him thinking he was the one, but... Her face clouded over. By the time I was old enough to understand, he had become an abusive drunk. My heart sank. Just a few years into maintaining a household, it seems he grew weary of it. Especially around 30 years ago, the belief that men worked outside and women maintained the home was still strongly prevalent. While his colleagues advanced in their careers, he had to leave work on time to take care of his daughter. Cooking, doing laundry, cleaning. Why should I, a man, be doing what women are traditionally supposed to do? And my beloved wife rarely comes home. This became more apparent after their daughter Natalie was born. Despite giving up career advancement to support his wife, he couldn't adapt to the life of supporting his daughter as well. And then my mother, she quit the job she loved, Natalie muttered with a hint of anger. With a hint of anger, she muttered. After quitting her job and trying to stabilize the family, she struggled, but ultimately, their relationship did not improve, leading to divorce. Her father, possibly affected by his drinking, passed away a few years after the divorce. No matter how much they promise to support you before marriage, I just can't trust it. Seeing Natalie suppress her anger and force a smile pained my heart. In my family, my father was a truck driver, and my mother worked part-time. Similar to her situation, my long-haul truck driver father would be away for days on end. During that time, my mother took on all the household responsibilities. Although usually gentle, she would scold us brothers fiercely if we misbehaved. It was as if she were taking his place. And when he came home, she would cook delicious meals, and we would all gather around the dinner table. Probably because your mother was there to maintain the home, you have happy memories, right? Natalie suggested. I shook my head. At one point, she found a job she wanted to do, I said. Natalie looked surprised. She became a tour guide for international trips. Her eyes widened even more. Originally proficient in French, she had worked vigorously as a tour guide before marrying my father. After marrying and deciding to start a family, she quit her job, but while she was happy at home, meeting an old colleague from her tour guide days inspired her to work again. She thought she'd wait until all the children were grown, but wanting to keep her French up to scratch, she suggested to my father that she'd like to study French again. Without hesitation, he said she could just go back to being a tour guide. When she expressed concern about being away from home for days, he promised to switch to shorter truck routes to support the home. Thus, he truly requested a job transfer at his company, which was granted, and he managed the household perfectly. Your father, that's incredible. Natalie said, her voice filled with admiration. So, Natalie, if you really want to continue as a flight attendant, there are people who will support you, I said with a smile. That's when Derek interjected. If it was Jason, he'd support you wholeheartedly. Suddenly joining in, he said so. Man, you're silly. Why would someone like Natalie consider someone like me? Speaking to Derek, my tone became casual. Regretting my rough language in front of a lady, Derek just grinned. Hey, how's that cat you saved doing? With the topic suddenly changing, I was taken aback. What? Natalie gasped softly, and I frowned. Yes, it's fine now, the wounds have healed, and it no longer needs that annoying thing around its neck. The Elizabethan collar, right? Is that the one? At the airport? Natalie asked in a trembling voice. Yeah, that's right. As I was about to leave the airport after loading up the truck, some jerk hit a cat and just drove off. The car that hit the cat just drove away. In a panic, I parked my truck nearby and rushed to the cat. It was limp, but still breathing, so I quickly took it to a vet, promised to pick it up after work, and even called several times during the day to check on its condition. When I finally finished work and went to pick up the cat, it was bandaged up in several places and had an Elizabethan collar around its neck, trembling with anxiety. It's still not quite used to me, gets a bit scratchy, but it's really cute. As I slackened my cheeks fondly, Natalie trembled. It was you. Did you know? Derek nodded knowingly. I was clueless. What do you mean? When I asked, Derek explained. The day I rescued the cat. By coincidence, Derek and Natalie, who were also at the parking lot walking to work, witnessed the cat being hit by the car. The two of them ran towards the scene, but I was quicker. When I swiftly jumped out of the driver's seat and took care of the cat, Natalie murmured, "That's wonderful." I've never seen Natalie look so enchanted before. I thought maybe, just maybe, you two might hit it off. I wasn't going to say anything if your conversation didn't go well, but the vibes seem good, right? Derek said, glancing at Amber. Yet, it's a good mood. Jason seems like he would listen to all of Natalie's whims. Amber said, grinning and resting her chin on her hand. Then, Derek and Amber stood up. Well, we'll leave you two alone then, they said, linking arms. What? Natalie exclaimed in surprise. Actually, we're dating. It's a secret, okay? Natalie, with her mouth agape, stammered, but I thought you admired him, and I was helping out. It only became official recently. I had to keep up the admiring act, right? Amber said with a mischievous smile. Derek told me he wanted me to meet someone, so I helped out. It seems the whole setup was for me and Natalie. Look, Natalie, in my opinion, Jason is the best guy I know. You can trust him. Derek said with a flashy wink, then even paid the bill before leaving the restaurant. Left alone, we were enveloped in silence. Sorry, this turned out to be a weird kind of mixer, she said, her face turning red. No, it's okay. The silence felt uncomfortable, so I offered her my phone. Want to see the cat? As I brought up the photo of the cat on the screen and handed it to Natalie, she asked. It's cute. What's its name? As Natalie touched my phone, I felt increasingly aware of her. Despite trying not to think about it, her earlier compliment and being told we were a good match made me conscious. I picked it up at the airport, so, airport, I said, revealing the simple name I had given it. Derek had laughed heartily at my straightforward naming. But Natalie didn't laugh. It's cute. Praising the name airport made my heart race. I'd like to meet it. I blushed red like a lobster. So, does that mean you want to come over to my place, Natalie? When I asked for confirmation, her face turned bright red. What? No, not like that, I mean, yes, it is like that, I'm being forward. She covered her face with both hands. It seems she sometimes makes naive and unintentional remarks. Please, come and play with the cat. I promise I won't make any moves. I won't do anything. I raised both hands as a sign of my promise. Seeing my hands raised and my earnest face, Natalie burst into laughter. I trust you. I firmly maintained my composure and nodded seriously. I had planned to set another day, but Natalie seemed eager to come to my place right then. Pointing this out might make her flustered again, so I decided to just bring her home. She had come by train, and I had driven. The ride in the cramped car was a bit nerve-wracking for both of us. We arrived at my small, shabby apartment. I live here alone. Thanks to the lenient pet policies of the rundown apartment, the landlord easily allowed it. As I unlocked the door and we entered, the cries of Airport echoed immediately. Airport, deciding not to exert any unnecessary effort, finally warmed up a bit after seeing me. Usually, it just meows once and then zones out, but knowing there was a guest, Airport started circling around Natalie, sniffing and observing her. I chuckled wryly, urged her to sit wherever she liked, and started boiling some water. She looked around the room curiously. It's quite clean, cleaner than my place, maybe. Hearing this, I chuckled. I don't have many belongings to begin with, and my parents drilled into me the importance of housekeeping. Like my father suddenly taking over the household chores to support my mother's job, life is unpredictable, and they wanted me to be able to manage on my own, so I was thoroughly trained in domestic chores. Hearing this, Natalie smiled and petted Airport, saying, "You really have wonderful parents." Really, it's settling in. I was astounded. It rarely came close to me. Yet here it was, purring and cuddling up to her. Maybe you would be better off as its owner. As I served the tea, she shook her head sadly. No, I can't. I'm away from home too much. Then, looking at me as if realizing something, she asked, "By the way, Jason, aren't you often away as well? What do you do with Airport when you're gone?" Scratching my head, I admitted, "Actually, I got a transfer." Natalie's eyes widened. Picking up the cat made me first consider what would happen while I was away. I thought about having my parents take care of it, but since I was the one who found it, I felt responsible to handle it myself. My company has two main operations: loading cargo at the airport and transporting it long distance, and loading cargo and distributing it within the county. I applied for a transfer to the local distribution. Actually, I swapped places with my father. My father, who works at the same company, had switched to local routes after deciding to support the household, and had continued on that path. When I discussed the cat with him, he casually said, "Then, how about we switch? I don't have to be home as much now that you kids are all grown up." And he went straight to our boss, President Thompson, to make it official. I was worried about him suddenly switching to long distance at his age, but he has always loved driving and took pride in his long-haul work. Now, he's happily back on long-distance routes. "You changed your work style for the cat." She was amazed, her eyes wide in surprise. "Of course, I'm responsible for a life, after all." Natalie covered her face. "What's wrong?" Concerned she might be feeling unwell, I was met with a shocking confession. "I think I'm falling for you, Jason." "What?" I yelled out in surprise, so loudly that the neighbor banged on the wall. I had forgotten about the thin walls. Decades later. "Hannah, Tommy, did you brush your teeth? Got everything ready?" My calls were met with a languid reply from Tommy, a first grader, and a firm "I already did it" from Hannah, a responsible third grader. These were the precious children Natalie and I had together. Unbelievably, since then, we started dating, moved in together on a trial basis without any major issues, and despite my doubts about proposing to a beautiful flight attendant like her, I went ahead with a proposal, prepared for rejection. But Natalie excitedly exclaimed, "I've been waiting for this. I've always been waiting. I'm so happy." And she hugged me tightly. She confessed she couldn't say it herself because she felt like she would be a burden. But that wasn't true at all. Indeed, being a flight attendant is demanding. Only after we started dating did I fully realize it. Even though I knew about Derek's pilot schedule, the actual days I could spend with Natalie were incredibly few. Although I sometimes felt lonely, seeing Natalie so vibrant and passionate about her work was incredibly heartwarming. She was truly precious to me. At the same time, I discovered that Natalie was quite disorganized when it came to personal life. The first time I visited her apartment, I was surprised. It looked tidy at a glance, but suddenly, a closet's contents came tumbling out like an avalanche. I couldn't stop laughing. It was like something out of a cartoon. What she struggled with, I excelled at. Conversely, things like shopping, meal planning, and organizing dates and trips, which I'm bad at, were Natalie's strengths. Currently, Natalie buys groceries in bulk on her days off and prepares meal plans. I follow these plans and cook accordingly. Sometimes, we sneak out for a meal, but I make up for it by using the extra ingredients to prepare lunch boxes during the day. In the evening, Natalie returned home laden with bags. The kids joyously greeted her. Airport, now quite an old cat but still sprightly, slowly joined the welcoming circle. I love this scene, where our entire family gathers at the entrance. Welcome home. I cherish being able to say these words every time. I'm home, thanks for everything. Natalie always adds a thank you. After the family dinner, Natalie bathed with the kids and read them a bedtime story. Usually, the kids head straight to bed when it's time to sleep, but they always wait for Natalie to read to them when she's home. It must be an irreplaceable time for Natalie too. After putting the kids to bed, Natalie came out of the bedroom and smiled at me. I made some tea, and we sat side by side on the sofa. Amber just asked where we're planning to go for the kids' summer vacation. Any ideas? I responded with a smile. How about camping? Or an amusement park? What if we do both? That sounds great. Derek and Amber got married a few years ago. Amber quit her job as a flight attendant to support Derek's demanding career. She had always planned to scale back her career no matter whom she married. Our families regularly interact as one big group. Thinking back to when I rescued Airport the cat, if Derek had not noticed Natalie's words then, we might not have this happiness today. Blessed with parents who respected each other's careers, I've been able to honor Natalie's profession in the same way. I am grateful for all these serendipitous connections. Watching Natalie excitedly discuss our next vacation, I cherished the happiness we have now.